Hello, bonjour. My name is Nikki and I like to read a lot. I want to invite you, internet folks, to join me while I complete my 2026 reading challenge. Why, you might ask? Well, I've been wanting to learn how to make YouTube videos for many moons, and I've spent so many seasons falling into this trap of preparing and researching instead of just doing the thing. So here we are. Also, I love reading. As a multi-passionate person, I feel super lucky to have this one hobby that I can rely on. In fact, I've been doing an annual reading challenge consistently for nearly a decade, which is wild for a woman who can barely manage to hold an interest for longer than like 3 weeks at a time. When I say reading challenge, I'm not interested in some like arbitrary number of books read in a year. Instead, I like to use these challenges for their prompts. It just adds a bit of gamification and creativity to the process of figuring out what to read next. In particular, I've been doing the PopSugar Reading Challenge, although I recently noticed it is Amazon affiliated, which makes my heart a bit sad, alas. Before I give you a rundown
What the hell is a rundown?
of each of the prompts for the 2026 PopSugar Reading Challenge, I'll share a bit of my reasoning for making this video series, as well as some of my personal rules for completing said prompts. So there's this idea called habit pairing or habit stacking, and it's when you tie a habit that you're already doing consistently with a habit that you want to do consistently. So I decided to tweak that idea just a bit by doing hobby pairing. This video series is basically my attempt to pair my reading hobby with my desired hobby of creating a YouTube channel. I'm pretty confident that my inner completionist will push me into posting at least the 51 videos it will take me to see this idea to completion. And by then, at the very least, I'll be marginally better at creating videos. Hopefully, by then, I will know whether or not I like making video content or if I just like the idea of it. Okay, so moving on, here are a few of my personal ideals for fulfilling the reading challenge prompts. I use a different book for each prompt, but you don't have to. And keep in mind, these rules are for me and not for thee. Don't worry if it's not how you would go about it. Whatever has you reading is cool in my books. Pun intended.
No! God, please, no! No!
First, limit rereads. Unless the prompt asks for it, I try to choose a book I haven't read before. Second, try to push your comfort zone, meaning I try to read a variety of authors, genres, and formats that are new to me. Third, prioritize work by diverse authors and decolonial perspectives. This is already something I strive to do, especially with fantasy and sci-fi. Views from the margins are not only infinitely more interesting, in my opinion, they also help you see the world in ways different from your own, and it helps you imagine the world otherwise, which can be pretty soul-soothing. Lastly, use the literal books in my to-be-read piles, as in try to use some of the books that are taking up physical space in my tiny apartment. Not only would the books themselves make for decent props in future videos, reading them will free up room in my home for even more books. Alright, without further ado, here are the 50 prompts for the 2026 PopSugar Reading Challenge. My goal is to make a video for each one. A book where gardening or a garden is central to the plot. A book that features a platonic friendship between a man and a woman. A book you meant to read in 2025. A book that starts with the letter Z. A book about women astronauts. A book with an overweight main character whose story isn't about losing weight. A book about a granny hobby. A book about a sexless marriage. A book with a Type C character. A book about a horse or with a horse on the cover. A book with a dad as the primary caregiver. A book with pop or sugar in the title. A book featuring a character with a hidden past. A book set in Michigan or written by an author from Michigan. A book about new beginnings. A book less than 260 pages. A book about your favorite event in the Winter Olympics. A love story that defies social boundaries. A book about teen angst. A book with a character who does Pilates or Legree. A book about a bachelorette trip. A book about a book club. A book you were hoping would fit into a prompt but doesn't. A book about postpartum. A book that explores influencer culture. A book with a character who navigates infertility. A book with a character who has curly hair. A book about debt. A book that takes place during harvesting season. A travel ghost story. A book that makes you feel FOMO. A book about an underwater civilization. A book about college. A book with a trans or non-binary protagonist. A book that makes you want to travel to Italy. A book about a mom, fiction or nonfiction. A book about a pop star. A book with any type of fruit on the cover or in the title. A book with a character who runs a marathon. A book outside your comfort zone. A book in a different format than your usual, physical, audio, ebook. A book inspired by a real song, album, band, or artist. 2 books written by real-life partners or spouses, part 1. 2 books written by real-life partners or spouses, part 2. A book that features birding. A sapphic comic. A book told entirely through letters. A book with a shadow daddy. A book with a mention of your zodiac sign. A book about Afrofuturism. Okay, so now that I've posted these intentions into the universe, it's up to me to follow through with them. I welcome you to join me on this journey. Maybe you're doing the same reading challenge. Maybe you have suggestions for certain prompts, and if so, please go ahead and share them with the class, aka the comment section. Maybe you're looking for some inspiration for your next read. Maybe you've wandered in here while searching for some distraction from the uncertainty and chaos of this world, and honestly, same. Whatever brought you this way, thanks for sticking around till the end. Feel free to let me know if you like this idea. There's a button for that. And subscribe if you're interested in seeing how this hobby pairing experiment of mine pans out. Or if you like hearing about what other folks are reading. I know that reading challenges can get a bad rep with too much emphasis on consuming books rather than experiencing and engaging with them. If you're doing a reading challenge of your own this year, which one? What's your take? Anyways, that's enough of my questions. Time to get reading and editing. So long, au revoir, see you next time.